for someone else. And on that note, I would like to introduce one of my personal role models, a lovely human being, and an inspiration to many Stoics around the world, Karen Duffy. Duff is a former MTV VJ, Revlon model, and actress who currently produces inspirational films right now, such as The Greatest Beer Run Ever, starring Zac Efron, Russell Crowe, and Bill Murray. She's also a best-selling author, a patient pain advocate, and a hospice chaplain. And her best-selling memoir, Backbone, Living with Chronic Pain Without Turning Into One, is a powerful and funny manual for living with devastating chronic pain. So you can see why Duff is a role model to many of us. But we're here today to talk about her latest book, Wise Up, which is a series of letters she writes to her teenage son, Seneca style. If you haven't read this book yet, I highly recommend it. There's something for everyone, from finding your purpose in life, the big picture, to setting small, realistic goals for yourself. And of course, there's plenty on our topic of today, courage. So Duff, thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much for being here. So I'd just like to ask you to start off. I really love your book, but there's one very powerful passage that I think speaks to us today. Would you mind reading the passage from page 85 that begins with "Courage is not a limited resource"? Oh, Duff, I think you're muted. Thank you. Yeah, we've got you now. Perfect.
Okay, you got me now? Okay.
We got you.
So I had a disagreement with the cover, so I've corrected it. So it took courage to that fight, but I didn't win that fight on the cover. So courage is not a limited resource. In a pinch, you can borrow it. Be inspired by others. Borrow a philosopher's courage, or your mother's. You can borrow courage from the wisdom of Epictetus or the valor of Theodore Roosevelt. Your father or your friends can all lend you courage. They've all been tested. They've faced huge obstacles. You can borrow courage from your teammates. You can repay the loan by letting others borrow from you. So don't confuse borrowing courage with giving up on your belief in your own decisions. You can try to avoid tough challenges by allowing others to tell you what to do. Coaches, parents, teachers, and friends all have wisdom to share. Don't lose sight of your own wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which is always spring up when you look." Guts is thinking for yourself.
Thank you, Duff. That is beautiful. I'm sure our audience will agree that that is so inspiring and coming from your heart as well and your life experience. Do you think you could share how Stoicism has helped you to become courageous and find that self-confidence that you write about?
It's been incredible. Stoicism has created a backbone, a framework. It's helped me know what to think when I didn't know what to think, because I have these radiant virtues that are alive in my blood system. One of the most beautiful things that I love about Stoicism is how practical it is and how fresh it is. It reads as if the ink is still wet. Bethany Hughes, a great classist, said the other day, talking about the study of life and the study of the virtues. And she said, we don't just live life, but we love the living of it. That is up to us. Einstein said, there are two ways to live your life. One is if nothing is a miracle. The other is if everything is a miracle. And I'm on team everything. And it is a challenging time for optimists. And I think it takes guts to have the courage to face every day with a grateful heart, which I think inspires us to be courageous.
Absolutely. I love the theme of gratitude. And in another passage, you say, we all have this resource of courage. Why don't we celebrate it? So I agree. Our culture tends to fixate on the negative, and we need to draw out our gratitude, and courage can help us do this. And so I'd like to ask you, you also say our finer qualities like resilience and bravery, or as you just said, these radiant virtues, these should be our values, what we truly value in life. And you can become braver by changing your way of thinking. Do you have any specific ways that we can change our thinking to help ourselves become braver and more optimistic and more grateful about our lives?
I believe it's a mistake to do nothing just because we can always do a little. Courage is showing up. Courage is everyone who on a Saturday, instead of running out and having, a day in the beautiful fall in the Northeast, they're here focusing because they have the courage to realize that I can learn something. And so I celebrate and honor everybody who is here today. I find great role models and learn from their lives. And that's where I talk about borrowing courage. This week, Amal and George Clooney had the Clooney Foundation for Justice Albie Awards honoring Dr. Albie Sachs. Now, this man was incredible. He helped write the Constitution for South Africa. He was key in ending apartheid. He was blown up in a car bomb, and the awards were named after him. And what I found so profound of this incredibly courageous man was we're talking about human rights, and he said, don't forget to embrace the humanity of human rights. In a way, he just said, this is our gift, and human rights, part of this is this joyous exhilaration, the loving of life. I mean, I love the quote from Marcus Aurelius, where what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. And that's not easy. And that takes guts.
I agree. Yes. Thank you for bringing up that example. That's very inspiring. And I just wanted to let our audience know that this woman, Karen Duffy, when Hurricane Ian struck Florida a few days ago, I was in the middle of the hurricane and I get an email from Duff saying, "Oh, Brittany, are you okay? Thinking of you down there in the middle of the storm." And I was so touched. So thank you so much for that, Duff. And Duff is truly a woman who lives up to her word and follows her role models, and is in turn a role model to many of us, showing that courage through kindness. Another one of your quotes, Duff, that I really love, you quote in your book Mother Teresa, who says that we all can't do great things, but we can all do things with great love. And I think we really need to connect with. We can't all be apartheid warriors. We don't all have those opportunities in our lives, but every single one of us can show up and show courage in small ways through our kindness, through our connections with other people, through the things that we do every day, through the hard work and the endurance and the fortitude that we show. So I just wondered if you have any other tips for how can we do this? How can we all do small things with great love to make the world a better place?
I think just to be awake to opportunity. And I have a habit for the past 30 years where I write a thank you letter to some random person in the world. It's not an email because it's not about reciprocity. It's just taking a moment to say thank you to somebody. Now, today it's going to be Dr. Albie Sachs. It could be anyone, but I think when you start taking small steps, you can then build and get the confidence and the courage just by holding an elevator, carrying groceries, small acts of kindness. A kindness to another is a kindness to yourself, as we learn through the Stoics. So being awake to what we can do. And again, this is a really tough time. We've been through a lot. And sometimes just a kind word, a small action. I was just in Italy, and I love this idea of the cafe espresso. And so you go to a cafe and you order a coffee, but you pay for two. And then somebody who's having a bad day can walk into the barista and he'll say, "Are there any suspended coffees?" And that's a small action. So I'm really inspired on, again, small actions lead to great results.
Yeah, thank you. I wonder if that relates to the idea in your book. You also discuss different types of happiness, and you play it as happiness and high-level happiness. So, would you mind telling us a little bit more about those two types of happiness and how we can incorporate more of those into our lives?
The backstory is I live with high-level chronic pain, and I wear these medical patches. And somebody said, what's it like to live in chronic pain? And that night, there were a bunch of mosquitoes buzzing around, and I kind of made the analogy when a mosquito bites you, you get an irritation and it's itchy, and so you scratch it. And when you are scratching the itch, you are creating a low-level pain to distract you from this irritating itch. And so I figured, wow, kind of in life, if we can just create low-level happiness, again, small acts of kindness to yourself as well. Like right after this, I'm going to make myself a nice pot of tea. I think that we all don't have to dodge assassins like Dr. Albie Sachs in order to live a courageous life of purpose. I think taking seminars and conferences are acts of courage and purpose, because that will get us to be the best version of ourselves. And that's really the ultimate goal. That's what we're all here for.
Exactly. So I'd also like to ask you about, so your son has just left home for college, which is a big moment in anyone's life. And you, in your book, you're writing your letters to him as a series of funny vignettes and advice and lots of interesting anecdotes as well. In what ways do you try to teach your son courage, or does this play a role in your parenting? What is that relationship like between you and your now almost grown son?
It's funny. A lot of people are like, "Oh, how are you doing with the empty nest?" I'm like, do I look like a person who wants a full nest? I mean, the whole point of parenting is we do a good job when we're obsolete, when we're out of business. So I think it's been a great honor to have the privilege to raise my son. And he's a collegiate athlete. He's a rower. And one of the things about rowing is to be an accomplished member of the crew team. It's about conquering pain. It is the most painful sport because it's an all-out sprint on the lactic acid. And I mentioned to him, wow, do you think you chose rowing because I live in chronic pain? And he's like, I think so. I don't think I was afraid of pain because I see you deal with it. And one of the things we say in our family is pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So I'm going to live my life, and we all will have pain, and especially women. We have a lot of invisible pain from fibromyalgia to endometriosis. And it takes courage to say, listen, I have to tap out, or I'm just going to get through this. And it is a precious privilege. And my life is not perfect, but I am so grateful. And I truly try to squeeze everything I can out of every day, because as we know, our life is a limited resource. We do have an expiration date. And so it's up to us to live the most courageous, valiant, kind lives that are infused with gratitude. And that is in our control.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. In your book, you also mentioned another episode related to courage, which is, looking back, is a little bit funny, but I'm sure it must have really taken a lot of courage at the time, which was your incident with the bear. Would you
Yes.
mind, would you mind telling us a bit about how that went and how you made it through the bear incident?
I'm dialing in from the Berkshires in Northwest Connecticut, and I'm on my farm, and we have many black bears. And I was charged by a bear. I didn't hear it; it just came right out, and it wasn't a big bear. It was about a Danny DeVito sized bear, but getting charged by a bear and hearing that growl and seeing that fur and feeling like, wow, I am prey. And the bear just rammed me and ran back into the woods as a yearling. But then its mother came, and dodging that bear and trying to make rational decisions. I had been prepared. I knew what to do. I think part of courage is preparation. And I would say I'm somewhat of an optimistic catastrophist, where I think things are going to be great until you get charged by a bear. And what was interesting, I had to hitchhike home, and the first car that came about 20 minutes, and the mother bear is just patrolling the street in front of me. I can't get past the bear. And so I stopped the car and I just said, please, can you give me a ride just down to the farm? I'm between the proverbial worst place between a mother bear and her cub. And she just looked at me and was like, I don't know you. No. And I was like, unless you have a fear of a middle-aged woman in yoga pants. I mean, but she chose fear and left me on the street between two bears. So I made the decision that I would never be like that. And again, what I love about the Stoics is they say, like Marcus Aurelius said, like the best way to deal with an adversary is to not be like them. So I promise, if anyone else gets charged by a bear, I will come to their aid. But being prepared is a big part of life. Knowing what to do and practicing the virtues of kindness and courage will maybe give you a dexterity, a language. So instead of freezing up, we'll be able to take action.
I love that, practicing the virtues. This is something we all have to do every day. It's something I work on quite a lot. In the middle of the hurricane, I was thinking, okay, well, what can prepare you for a hurricane or a bear charge or anything? And it's just experiencing it. It's practicing it. You have to go through that in order to become stronger and more courageous. This is something Seneca talks about with his metaphor of the tree, when he says a tree that doesn't experience any wind isn't strong at all. But when it is buffeted constantly by a forceful wind, it really gets its roots firmly into the ground and becomes a tough, strong, sturdy tree. So I think about you dealing with your chronic pain all the time, people who have now experienced the loss of their home through a hurricane, people all around the world going through all kinds of natural disasters, man-made disasters. And I'm so grateful that we can come together today to talk about courage and practice this and have this spiritual exercise of working together. So
absolutely. As Seneca said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And it's up to us to be the hero of our own story. We're the one that's writing it through every action. And every day outside of a bear is a good day for me. Every day outside of the eye of a hurricane is a good day for the folks in South Florida. So there are small actions. I think we get maybe used to being courageous and being grateful by taking small, courageous tasks and taking small acts of gratitude and kindness, and then it becomes more fluent.
absolutely, like speaking a second language, right?
Exactly. It's very interesting. I looked up the number one fears, what people fear the most. And, it's not snakes, it's not flying, it's not bear attacks. It's public speaking, which you are doing right now. That is the most common fear. And in fact, if you had a fear of public speaking, and you were at a funeral, you'd rather be in the casket than delivering the eulogy. So being here together, speaking together, this is courage. This is guts.
Yes. And on that note, we'll end. Thank you so much, Karen Duffy. It's been a delight, as always, talking to you. Your radiant spirit shines for all of us. So I appreciate you being here so much.
Thank you. Truly, you are a gift. And I can't wait for the rest of the day.